You are begging for an ocean, but you are holding a teaspoon. Ernest Holmes taught that the universe is infinite in supply, but it is strictly limited by the container you present to it. He called this the mental equivalent. It is a hidden mathematical ratio. You can never attract 100% of a result if you only have 10% of the mental structure to hold it. Most people spend their lives trying to increase the water, the money, the love, the success, without ever enlarging the cup. This is why they fail. They are not working with a spiritual problem, they are working with an engineering problem. The blueprint they are holding is too small for the mansion they are demanding. The pain is the frustration of almost making it. It is the feeling of hitting an invisible glass ceiling that no one else can see, but you can feel with every fiber of your being. You work hard, you pray, you visualize, and yet your income or your happiness snaps back to the same set point, like a rubber band stretched too far and then released. You think the problem is the economy, or your lack of opportunity, or the unfairness of the world. Holmes says the problem is your internal volume. You simply do not have the cubic footage in your mind to hold the wealth you want. You're a small vessel trying to contain a large sea, and the sea keeps spilling out because the walls are not strong enough, not wide enough, not deep enough to accommodate it. This is not a metaphor. This is law. The universe operates on the principle of correspondence. What is inside must match what is outside. If your mental architecture can only support $50,000, then $50,000 is the maximum the universe can deliver to you without collapsing your structure. If you try to force more into that space, it will leak out through self-sabotage, through sudden expenses, through mysterious losses that you cannot explain. The universe is not punishing you. It is simply obeying the law. It is filling the mold you have provided and no more. The promise is this: if you build the larger structure inside, the physical reality must rush in to fill the vacuum. Nature abhors a vacuum. If you create a mental container capable of holding $1 million, the universe has no choice but to pour $1 million into it. This is not wishful thinking. This is the mathematics of manifestation. Holmes understood that the spiritual life is not about begging God for favors. It is about constructing the internal equivalent of what you desire, and then watching the law automatically deliver the physical match. In this video, we will stop begging and start building. You will learn how to construct the mental prototype that forces the universe to upgrade your reality. This is not about affirmations that you repeat while secretly doubting. This is about engineering a new baseline, a new normal, a new set point that your subconscious mind accepts as true. When your subconscious accepts the larger container as real, the law has no choice but to fill it. This is the secret that Holmes spent his life teaching, and it is the secret that separates those who demonstrate prosperity from those who merely hope for it. But be warned, there is a specific mental habit that cracks your container and lets all the power leak out. It is a subtle form of spiritual humility that is actually a trap. It masquerades as virtue, but it is the death of demonstration. Most people fall into this trap without realizing it, and they spend decades wondering why their prayers are not answered. I will expose this trap in part 4, and I will show you how to avoid it. If you are serious about expanding your capacity, you must understand this hidden sabotage. I ask you now to make a declaration. In the comments, write the words, "I am the vessel." This is not a casual statement. It is a command to your subconscious mind. It is a signal that you are ready to expand, that you are willing to become the larger container, that you are prepared to hold more life than you have ever held before. Subscribe to this channel if you are ready to stop living at the mercy of circumstance and start living as the architect of your own destiny. The teachings of Ernest Holmes are not for the faint of heart. They are for those who are willing to take full responsibility for the size of their reality. The central concept is what Holmes called the law of correspondence. It is the most fundamental principle in the science of mind, and it is the key that unlocks every door. The law states simply, we can only demonstrate what we can conceive. This is not a limitation placed on you by a stingy God. This is a limitation placed on the universe by the size of your mental blueprint. The universe is not withholding anything from you. You are withholding everything from yourself by refusing to expand the dimensions of your inner world. Let us be precise about what this means. When Holmes says you can only demonstrate what you can conceive, he is not talking about a fleeting wish or a momentary visualization. He is talking about embodiment. He is talking about a mental state so complete, so total, so saturated with the reality of your desire that it becomes your new identity. If you want to be a millionaire, but your mental equivalent is that of a struggling worker, the millions cannot stick to you. They would crush your current structure. They would overwhelm your nervous system. They would destroy the fragile scaffolding of your self-image. Therefore, the universe, in its infinite wisdom, protects you from what you are not ready to hold. This is why lottery winners go bankrupt. They receive the money before they build the mental equivalent to sustain it. The money arrives, but the internal structure is still that of a poor person. The poor person's structure cannot hold wealth. It leaks. It dissipates. It evaporates like water poured into a cracked jar. The universe did not take the money away. The person's own mental equivalent rejected it because it did not match the internal pattern. Holmes understood this with crystalline clarity. You must become the thing mentally before you see the thing physically. Becoming the thing mentally is not a game of pretend. It is not about lying to yourself or denying your current reality. It is about constructing a new baseline, a new normal, a new frequency at which your consciousness operates. If you want wealth, you must dwell in the mental atmosphere of wealth until it feels ordinary to you. If you want love, you must saturate your mind with the feeling of being deeply loved until it feels natural to you. If you want health, you must embody the vitality of perfect health until your cells respond to the new command. This is the difference between wishing and demonstrating. Wishing is when you stand outside the gate and hope someone will let you in. Demonstrating is when you build the gate inside yourself and the outer gate swings open automatically because the law of correspondence demands it. Holmes taught that the outer world is not the cause of your experience, it is the effect. The cause is always internal. The cause is always the mental equivalent you are holding in this moment. Let us examine the mechanics more deeply. Your mental equivalent is not just a thought. It is a complex structure composed of beliefs, assumptions, expectations, and self-definitions. It is the sum total of what you believe is possible for you, what you believe is normal for you, what you believe you deserve, and what you believe the universe will allow you to have. This structure operates like a filter. It determines what you notice, what you ignore, what you pursue, and what you abandon. It shapes your decisions at a subconscious level, guiding you toward experiences that confirm the structure and away from experiences that would shatter it. If your mental equivalent says, "I am the kind of person who always struggles," then you will unconsciously make decisions that produce struggle. You will take the lower-paying job. You will stay in the toxic relationship. You will sabotage the opportunity that could change everything. Not because you are weak or foolish, but because your mental equivalent is doing its job. It is maintaining consistency. It is protecting you from the cognitive dissonance of living outside your self-concept. Holmes recognized that this is not a moral failing. It is a mechanical process. It is law in action. Therefore, if you want to change your results, you must change the structure. You cannot change the structure by fighting with the outer world. You cannot change the structure by working harder at the same level of consciousness. You must go to the root. You must dismantle the old mental equivalent and construct a new one. This is the great work. This is the labor that most people refuse to do because it requires them to let go of the familiar, to release the identity they have clung to for decades, to admit that the person they thought they were is not the person they are becoming. Holmes was relentless on this point. He said that you cannot pour new wine into old wineskins. The old wineskins will burst. You must create a new container. You must expand the walls of your consciousness until they can accommodate the larger life you are calling forth. This expansion is not comfortable. It is not easy. It requires you to sit with the discomfort of holding a vision that your current circumstances contradict. It requires you to maintain the larger mental equivalent even when the bank account is empty, even when the diagnosis is grim, even when the world is telling you that you are delusional. But here is the promise. If you hold the larger mental equivalent with unwavering faith, the law will respond. It must respond. It has no choice. The law of correspondence is not a suggestion. It is not a guideline. It is an immutable principle, as reliable as gravity, as predictable as mathematics. If you build the internal structure, the external manifestation will follow. It cannot do otherwise. This is the certainty that Holmes offered to those who were willing to do the work. The work is not in the outer world. The work is in the inner world. The work is in the daily discipline of holding your mind at the frequency of your desire until that frequency becomes your new baseline. The work is in refusing to collapse back into the old mental equivalent when challenges arise. The work is in treating your consciousness as the most valuable real estate you own, and guarding it with the vigilance of a master architect who knows that one crack in the foundation will bring down the entire structure. Holmes taught that the universe is not testing you. It is not making you prove your worth. It is simply waiting for you to provide the mental equivalent that matches what you are asking for. Once you provide it, the demonstration is inevitable. This is the hidden ratio that locks your destiny. This is the secret that the masters have always known. You are not a beggar at the gates of heaven. You are a builder, and the blueprint you hold in your mind is the only permission slip the universe needs. The law of correspondence is the bridge between the invisible and the visible. It is the mechanism by which thought becomes thing. It is the reason why two people can be exposed to the same opportunity, and one will seize it while the other will let it pass. The one who seizes it has the mental equivalent to recognize it and the internal capacity to hold it. The one who lets it pass does not yet have the structure. The opportunity does not match their self-concept, so their mind dismisses it as irrelevant or impossible. This is why Holmes insisted that spiritual growth is not about acquiring new things. It is about becoming a new person. When you become the person who can hold the thing appears. When you become the person who can sustain wealth, wealth flows. When you become the person who can receive love, love arrives. The universe is not stingy, you are simply too small. And the moment you expand, the universe expands with you. This is the law. This is the foundation. This is the truth that sets you free. Now we must examine the unshakable logic that underpins this entire teaching. Holmes used a powerful analogy to make this principle unmistakably clear: the pipe and the reservoir. The reservoir is God, the universe, the infinite supply. It is full. It is always full. It is eternally full. It contains every possibility, every resource, every answer, every solution. There is no lack in the reservoir. There is no shortage. There is no limitation. The reservoir is the source, and the source is inexhaustible. But between you and the reservoir is a pipe. That pipe is your mental equivalent. It is the conduit through which the infinite flows into your life. And here is the critical point. The reservoir will fill any pipe, no matter how small, no matter how large. The reservoir does not judge. It does not discriminate. It does not say, this person deserves a large pipe and this person deserves a small pipe. The reservoir simply flows. It fills whatever container is presented to the exact capacity of that container, and no more. If your pipe is rusty and narrow, you will only get a trickle. You will receive just enough to survive, just enough to get by, just enough to keep you hoping that someday things will get better. But they will not get better until you replace the pipe. The problem is not the reservoir. The reservoir is full. The problem is the pipe. The pipe is clogged with doubt, corroded with fear, narrowed by limiting beliefs and twisted by old wounds. The pipe is the bottleneck. The pipe is the limitation. And the pipe is entirely within your control. Holmes was emphatic about this. He said, "Do not blame the reservoir for the trickle. Do not accuse God of withholding. Do not say that the universe is unfair or that the law does not work. The law is impersonal. It fills a thimble as easily as it fills a canyon, but it will never overflow the thimble. If you present a thimble, you will receive a thimble's worth. If you present a canyon, you will receive a canyon's worth. The choice is yours. The responsibility is yours. The power is yours." This is the logic that cannot be refuted. It is the logic that strips away every excuse, every justification, every rationalization for remaining small. You cannot say, I am unlucky, because luck has nothing to do with it. You cannot say, God is punishing me, because God does not punish. You cannot say, the world is against me, because the world is neutral. The world is a mirror. It reflects back to you the exact size and shape of your mental equivalent. If you do not like what you see, you must change the pipe. Let us go deeper into the mechanics of the pipe. The pipe is not a fixed structure. It is not something you were born with and cannot change. The pipe is constructed by your habitual thoughts, your dominant beliefs, your repeated mental patterns. Every time you think a thought of limitation, you add another layer of rust to the pipe. Every time you indulge in fear, you narrow the pipe. Every time you accept less than you desire, you signal to the universe that this is the size of the pipe you are comfortable with, and the universe honors your signal. Conversely, every time you think a thought of expansion, you begin to clean the pipe. Every time you affirm abundance, you widen the pipe. Every time you refuse to accept limitation, you send a command to the universe that you are ready for a larger flow, and the universe begins to adjust. This is not magic, this is mechanics, this is the law of correspondence in action. The pipe responds to your mental commands because the pipe is made of your mental commands. Holmes understood that most people spend their entire lives complaining about the trickle without ever examining the pipe. They pray for more money, but they do not expand their capacity to receive it. They beg for better relationships, but they do not upgrade their self-worth. They demand better health, but they do not change the mental patterns that created the illness. They are asking the reservoir to do something it is already doing. The reservoir is pouring. The problem is that the pipe cannot handle the volume. This is why Holmes taught that the spiritual life is not about petition. It is about preparation. You do not need to convince God to give you more. God is already giving you everything. You need to prepare yourself to receive it. You need to expand the pipe. You need to build the mental equivalent that can handle the abundance that is already flowing toward you. The moment you do this, the trickle becomes a stream. The stream becomes a river. The river becomes a flood. And the flood becomes your new normal. The logic is unshakable because it places the power entirely in your hands. You are not at the mercy of external forces. You are not dependent on the economy, the government, your employer, or your circumstances. You are dependent only on the size of your pipe, and the size of your pipe is determined by the size of your thinking. If you think small, the pipe remains small. If you think large, the pipe expands. It is a direct, immediate, and infallible correlation. Holmes also warned against the trap of incremental thinking. Most people want to expand their pipe slowly, cautiously, 1 millimeter at a time. They are afraid of expanding too quickly because they fear they will not be able to handle it. But this fear is the very thing that keeps the pipe small. The universe does not reward caution. It rewards boldness. It rewards the person who says, I am ready for the full flow. I am ready to receive everything the reservoir has to offer. I am not going to tiptoe toward my destiny. I am going to claim it now. This does not mean recklessness. It means faith. It means trusting that the law will support you as you expand. It means understanding that the universe will never give you more than your mental equivalent can hold, so there is no risk in asking for more. The worst that can happen is that you will expand your consciousness and discover that you are capable of far more than you ever imagined. The best that can happen is that you will become a vessel so large that the entire reservoir can flow through you, blessing not only your life but the lives of everyone you touch. The pipe and the reservoir. This is the image you must hold in your mind. The reservoir is full. The reservoir is always full. The only question is, how large is your pipe? How much are you willing to receive? How much are you willing to hold? How much are you willing to become? Holmes taught that the answer to these questions determines the entire trajectory of your life. Expand the pipe and you expand your destiny. Shrink the pipe and you shrink your possibilities. The law is waiting. The reservoir is pouring. The only thing standing between you and the life you desire is the size of the conduit you have constructed. Build it larger. Build it now. Build it with the certainty that the universe will honor every inch of expansion you create. Mental preparation is the foundation upon which all demonstration rests. Before you can expand your mental equivalent, you must first enter the required state, and that state is expansion itself. You cannot build a larger container while you are thinking small thoughts. You cannot construct a palace while you are dwelling in the mental atmosphere of a shack. Holmes understood that the mind must be stretched past its comfort zone, past its familiar boundaries, past the narrow confines of personal experience, and into the vastness of universal mind. The preparation begins with contemplation of the infinite. Holmes suggests that you spend time each day contemplating the vastness of the cosmos, the endless expanse of space, the billions of galaxies, the incomprehensible scale of creation. This is not an exercise in astronomy. This is an exercise in breaking the smallness of human thinking. When you contemplate the infinite, you begin to realize how absurdly small your problems are, how ridiculously limited your current mental equivalent is, how unnecessarily constricted your self-concept has become. Most people live their entire lives inside a mental box. The walls of this box are made of inherited beliefs, cultural conditioning, past failures, and the opinions of others. They have never questioned the walls. They have never tested the boundaries. They have simply accepted that this is the size of their world, and they have adjusted their desires to fit within the box. Holmes says this is insanity. You are an expression of the infinite, and yet you have convinced yourself that you are finite. You are a channel for unlimited power, and yet you have decided that you are weak. The contemplation of vastness is designed to shatter the box. When you meditate on the infinite nature of the universe, something begins to shift inside you. You begin to feel the absurdity of your self-imposed limitations. You begin to see that the only thing keeping you small is your refusal to think larger thoughts. You begin to understand that the universe is not limited, your circumstances are not limited, even your body is not as limited as you have been taught. The only limitation is in your mind, and the moment you expand your mind, the limitations dissolve. Holmes taught that this expansion is not a one-time event. It is a daily discipline. You must return to the contemplation of vastness again and again until your nervous system adjusts to the larger reality. Your subconscious mind is like a muscle. It has been trained to operate at a certain level, to expect a certain range of outcomes, to feel comfortable with a certain degree of success. If you want to train it to operate at a higher level, you must expose it repeatedly to the larger vision until the larger vision becomes the new normal. This is why Holmes insisted on the practice of sitting in silence and mentally dwelling in the infinite, not as a beggar hoping for scraps, but as an heir claiming your inheritance. You are not asking the universe to give you something it does not want to give. You are recognizing that the universe has already given you everything, and you are simply expanding your capacity to receive it. The preparation is not about convincing God. It is about convincing yourself. It is about reprogramming your subconscious mind to accept a larger reality as true. As you sit in this contemplation, you must also release the grip of personal history. Your past does not determine your future, unless you allow it to. Holmes taught that the past is simply a collection of old mental equivalents that produced old results. If you want new results, you must build a new mental equivalent, and that means letting go of the identity you constructed based on your past. You are not the person who failed. You are not the person who was rejected. You are not the person who struggled. Those were simply roles you played when you had a smaller mental equivalent. Now you are expanding, and the old roles no longer fit. This expansion requires courage. It requires you to sit with the discomfort of holding a vision that your current reality contradicts. It requires you to maintain the larger mental equivalent even when your bank account says you are broke, even when your body says you are sick, even when your relationships say you are unlovable. This is the test. This is where most people fail. They expand for a moment, and then they collapse back into the old structure because the discomfort is too great. Holmes says you must hold the expansion until it becomes comfortable, until it becomes natural, until it becomes your new baseline. The state of expansion is not a feeling of strain. It is a feeling of spaciousness. It is the feeling of breathing deeply after years of shallow breathing. It is the feeling of standing up straight after years of hunching over. It is the feeling of finally allowing yourself to want what you truly want, without apology, without guilt, without the need to justify it to anyone. Holmes taught that this is your natural state. You were designed to expand. You were designed to grow. You were designed to express more life, not less. The only reason you have been living small is because you were taught to live small, and now you are unlearning that lie. As you enter this state, you will notice that opportunities begin to appear. Not because the universe suddenly decided to bless you, but because your expanded consciousness can now perceive opportunities that were always there. Your mental equivalent was too small to see them before. It filtered them out as irrelevant or impossible. But now, with the larger structure in place, you see possibilities everywhere. You see resources you did not notice. You see connections you overlooked. You see pathways that were invisible to your smaller self. This is the power of mental preparation. It is not about forcing the universe to give you something. It is about expanding your awareness so that you can receive what the universe is already offering. Holmes understood that the universe is not holding back. You are holding back. And the moment you stop holding back, the moment you allow yourself to expand into the fullness of your potential, the floodgates open. The preparation is the key that unlocks the gate. Without it, you will remain outside, knocking and wondering why no one is answering. With it, you will realize that the gate was never locked. You simply needed to become large enough to see the handle. The required state is expansion, not wishful thinking, not positive affirmations repeated without conviction, but a genuine, visceral, embodied sense of spaciousness, of possibility, of readiness to receive more life than you have ever received before. Holmes taught that you must stretch your mind until it hurts, until it resists, until it screams that this is too much, too big, too impossible. And then you must stretch it a little more, because on the other side of that resistance is the breakthrough. On the other side of that discomfort is the new mental equivalent that will change everything. The contemplation of vastness is not an intellectual exercise. It is a spiritual practice designed to obliterate the sense of separation between you and the infinite. When you truly grasp the scale of the universe, when you truly feel the magnitude of the creative power that holds galaxies in place, you begin to understand that this same power is operating through you. You are not separate from it. You are an individualized expression of it. And if it can create galaxies, it can certainly create wealth in your bank account, health in your body, and love in your life. The only thing preventing this demonstration is the smallness of your thinking. Holmes also taught that you must become comfortable with the idea of receiving without earning. This is perhaps the most difficult aspect of mental preparation for those who have been raised in a culture that worships hard work and struggle. You have been taught that you must earn everything, that nothing should come easily, that suffering is the price of success. Holmes says this is a lie. The universe does not require you to suffer. It requires you to expand. It requires you to become the mental equivalent of what you desire, and then it gives it to you as naturally as a tree produces fruit. The tree does not struggle to produce fruit. It simply becomes the kind of tree that produces fruit, and the fruit appears. You must prepare your mind to receive easily, joyfully, effortlessly. You must release the belief that struggle is noble and ease is suspect. You must understand that the universe operates on the principle of least resistance, not maximum effort. Water does not fight its way downhill, it flows, and when you align your mental equivalent with your desire, your demonstration will flow with the same ease. The preparation is about removing the mental blocks that prevent the flow, not about building more dams and then wondering why the water is not reaching you. The state of expansion is also a state of gratitude. Not gratitude for what you currently have, although that is important, but gratitude for what is already yours in the invisible realm, waiting for your mental equivalent to catch up. Holmes taught that everything you desire already exists as a possibility in universal mind. It is not something you must create from nothing. It is something you must claim by becoming the vibrational match to it, and gratitude is the frequency of reception. When you feel grateful for the abundance that is already yours, you signal to the universe that you are ready to receive it in physical form. This is the mental preparation. This is the state you must cultivate before you attempt to build the larger mental equivalent. Without this foundation, the techniques will not work. Without this expansion, you will simply be repeating affirmations from a place of contraction, and the universe will respond to the contraction, not the words. Holmes was clear. You cannot trick the law. You cannot fake expansion. You must genuinely become larger, and that requires you to do the inner work of releasing the old identity and embracing the new one. The preparation is everything. The preparation is the difference between demonstration and delusion. Now we move to the execution, the expansion protocol that will take you from theory to demonstration. This is where the abstract becomes concrete, where the invisible becomes visible, where the mental equivalent is deliberately constructed with the precision of an engineer building a bridge. Holmes provided a clear roadmap for this process, and if you follow it with discipline and faith, the results are inevitable. The law does not fail. Only your application of the law can fail. Step 1 is the measurement, the honest audit. You must begin by looking at your life with brutal honesty. Your current bank balance is your current mental equivalent. Your current relationship status is your current mental equivalent. Your current level of health is your current mental equivalent. Do not deny this. Do not make excuses. Do not blame external circumstances. Accept that your outer world is the perfect, accurate measurement of your past thinking. Holmes taught that this is not a judgment. It is simply data. It is the feedback loop that shows you exactly what you have been building in your mind. Most people resist this step because it requires them to take full responsibility. It is easier to blame the economy, the government, your parents, your spouse, your bad luck. But Holmes says that blame is the enemy of demonstration. As long as you are blaming something outside yourself, you are giving your power away. You are saying that your life is determined by forces beyond your control. And if that is true, then you are helpless. But if you accept that your current reality is the result of your current mental equivalent, then you also accept that you have the power to change it. The measurement is not about shame, it is about empowerment. Look at your bank balance. Do not judge it. Simply observe it and say, "This is what I built. This is the result of the mental equivalent I have been holding. Now I will build bigger." Look at your relationships. Do not criticize yourself for the failures. Simply acknowledge them and say, "This is what I attracted with my old self-concept. Now I will construct a new self-concept that attracts different results." Look at your health. Do not despair over the diagnosis. Simply recognize it as the physical manifestation of old mental patterns and declare, "I am now building a new pattern, and my body will respond to the new command." This honest audit is the foundation of all change. You cannot build a new structure on top of an old one without first acknowledging that the old one exists. Holmes taught that denial is not faith. Denial is avoidance. Faith is the willingness to look at what is, accept it as the past, and then turn your attention to what will be. The measurement gives you a starting point. It shows you the size of the container you have been using so that you can consciously choose to build a larger one. Step 2 is the widening, the stretching of the mind. This is where the real work begins. You must mentally dwell in the larger house before you buy it. You must feel the weight of the larger bank account before it appears. You must embody the confidence of the successful person before the success manifests. Holmes calls this providing the mold. The universe is like molten metal, ready to pour into whatever shape you provide. If you provide a small mold, you get a small result. If you provide a large mold, you get a large result. The mold is your mental equivalent, and you construct it through disciplined imagination. Spend 10 minutes a day feeling the responsibility and the normality of your desire. This is critical. Holmes emphasized that your desire must stop being a dream and start being your normal. If wealth feels special or rare to you, you do not have the mental equivalent yet. Wealth must feel common, ordinary, expected. It must feel like the natural state of affairs, not like a stroke of luck. When you think about your desired reality, you should not feel excitement in the sense of surprise. You should feel satisfaction in the sense of recognition. You should feel like you are remembering something that already belongs to you, not hoping for something that might happen. This is the difference between wishing and claiming. Wishing is when you stand outside the mansion and press your face against the window, hoping that someday you will be allowed inside. Claiming is when you mentally walk through the front door, sit down in the living room, and feel the texture of the furniture under your hands. You do not ask for permission. You do not wait for an invitation. You simply take your place because you know that this is your mental equivalent, and the law must honor it. Holmes taught that you must dwell in this mental state until it becomes more real to you than your current circumstances. This requires discipline. Your senses will tell you that you are lying to yourself. Your bank account will contradict your vision. Your friends will question your sanity, but you must hold the mold steady. You must refuse to let external evidence collapse your internal structure. The law does not respond to your current circumstances. It responds to your mental equivalent. And if you can hold the larger mental equivalent with unwavering consistency, the circumstances will eventually conform to it. As you practice this widening, you will notice resistance. Your subconscious mind will fight back. It will say, "This is not real. This is not who you are. This is not what people like you get to have." Holmes says you must override this resistance with conscious command. You must speak to your subconscious mind with authority and say, "I am the thinker. You are the instrument. I am now providing a new pattern, and you will accept it." The subconscious mind is not your enemy. It is simply a servant that has been following old orders. Now you are giving it new orders, and it will obey, but only if you are consistent and firm. The widening also requires you to feel the emotions of the fulfilled desire. Holmes taught that thought without feeling is sterile. It does not impregnate the subconscious mind. You must add the emotional component. You must feel the relief of financial security. You must feel the joy of being deeply loved. You must feel the vitality of perfect health. These emotions are not manufactured. They are accessed by mentally placing yourself in the desired reality and allowing the natural emotional response to arise. When you do this repeatedly, the subconscious mind begins to accept the new reality as true, and it starts to reorganize your behavior, your perceptions, and your opportunities to match it. Step 3 is the embodiment, the acting of the part. This is where the internal work meets the external world. Holmes taught that you must raise your standards in small things to signal to your subconscious that high quality is your new baseline. You are physically widening the pipe. You are training your nervous system to become comfortable with excellence, with abundance, with the best. If you want to live in a mansion, you cannot continue to treat your current home like a garbage dump. If you want to attract wealth, you cannot continue to dress like someone who has given up. If you want to be treated with respect, you cannot continue to tolerate disrespect in small interactions. Eat off the best china. Wear your best clothes at home. Treat yourself as if you are already the person you are becoming. This is not about pretending. This is about training. You are teaching your subconscious mind that you are worthy of the best, that the best is normal for you, that the best is what you expect. Holmes understood that the subconscious mind learns through repetition and through physical action. When you consistently act as if you are already living at the higher level, the subconscious mind begins to believe it, and it starts to attract circumstances that match the new belief. This embodiment also extends to how you speak. Holmes taught that your words are creative. They are not just sounds. They are commands that shape your mental equivalent. If you constantly say, "I can't afford that," you are reinforcing the mental equivalent of poverty. If you say, "I am not good enough," you are reinforcing the mental equivalent of unworthiness. You must guard your speech with the vigilance of a master. You must speak only words that reinforce the larger mental equivalent. When you are tempted to complain, stop. When you are tempted to diminish yourself, refuse. When you are tempted to agree with limitation, reject it. Holmes also taught that you must act on the opportunities that appear. The mental equivalent will attract opportunities, but you must have the courage to seize them. Many people build the larger mental equivalent and then freeze when the opportunity arrives because it does not look the way they expected. They were expecting a lottery win, and instead they get an invitation to a networking event. They were expecting a miracle cure, and instead they get a referral to a new doctor. The universe delivers through natural channels, and you must be willing to walk through the doors that open, even if they are not the doors you are watching. The embodiment is the final piece of the expansion protocol. It is the bridge between the invisible and the visible. It is the moment when your mental equivalent stops being a private fantasy and starts to become a public reality. Holmes taught that this is the most exciting phase because this is when you begin to see the evidence. The law is responding. The universe is rearranging. The demonstration is unfolding, and all of it is happening because you dared to expand your mind beyond the boundaries of your past. Now we must address the fatal mistakes, the hidden sabotages that crack your container and let all the power leak out. Holmes understood that most people fail not because they do not know the principles, but because they violate them unconsciously. They build the mental equivalent with one hand and destroy it with the other. They expand in the morning and contract in the evening. They claim abundance on Sunday and accept poverty on Monday. This inconsistency is the death of demonstration. The law cannot fill a fluctuating mold. It creates a mess. The first fatal mistake, and the one I promised to reveal in part 1, is false humility. This is the spiritual trap that masquerades as virtue, but is actually a form of self-rejection. It sounds like this. I don't need much, I just want to be comfortable. I'm not greedy. I'm grateful for what I have. Holmes says this is a collapse of your mental equivalent. You are telling the universe to send you just enough. You are putting a ceiling on your demonstration. You are saying that you are not worthy of abundance, that you should not ask for too much, that it would be selfish to want more. This false humility is often rooted in religious conditioning. You were taught that poverty is noble, that suffering brings you closer to God, that rich people are morally suspect. Holmes says this is a perversion of spiritual truth. The universe is abundant. God is infinite supply. To limit yourself is not humility. It is an insult to the abundance that wants to express through you. You are a channel for the divine, and when you constrict the channel, you are blocking the flow not just for yourself, but for everyone who could benefit from your expanded expression. Holmes taught that true humility is not about making yourself small. True humility is recognizing that you are not the source of the abundance. The universe is the source. You are simply the vessel. And a vessel that refuses to expand is a vessel that refuses to serve. When you say, "I don't need much," you are not being humble. You are being cowardly. You are afraid of your own power. You are afraid of what might happen if you actually allowed yourself to receive everything you desire. You are afraid that if you become too successful, too wealthy, too happy, people will judge you, or you will lose yourself, or God will punish you. But Holmes says God does not punish expansion. God celebrates it. The universe wants you to thrive. It wants you to overflow. It wants you to become so abundant that you can lift others up with you. When you limit yourself out of false humility, you are not serving anyone. You are simply perpetuating the lie that scarcity is spiritual. Holmes was relentless on this point. He said, "Demand more life, not less. Demand more expression, not less. Demand more abundance, not less. This is not greed. This is alignment with the nature of the universe itself." The antidote to false humility is to reframe abundance as a tool for good. When you desire wealth, do not desire it for selfish reasons alone. Desire it so that you can fund projects that matter, so that you can support causes you believe in, so that you can be generous without limitation. When you desire health, desire it so that you can serve with energy and vitality. When you desire love, desire it so that you can give love more fully. Holmes taught that when you connect your desire to a larger purpose, the false humility dissolves. You are no longer asking for yourself. You are asking so that you can be a greater conduit for the divine. The second fatal mistake is the reversion, the collapse back into the old mental equivalent. This happens when you build the big mold in the morning and shrink back to the small mold at night. You spend 10 minutes visualizing abundance, and then you spend the rest of the day worrying about bills. You affirm health in your meditation, and then you spend the evening complaining about your symptoms. You claim your worth in the mirror, and then you accept disrespect from your boss without protest. Holmes says this is like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in the bottom. The universe cannot fill a fluctuating mold. It creates a mess. The reversion happens because the old mental equivalent is deeply ingrained. It has been reinforced for years, perhaps decades. It is comfortable. It is familiar. It is the default setting of your subconscious mind. And when stress arises, when challenges appear, when circumstances contradict your vision, the subconscious mind reverts to the old setting because that is what it knows. Holmes taught that you must catch these reversions the moment they happen and consciously redirect your mind back to the larger mental equivalent. This requires vigilance. You must become a watcher of your own thoughts. You must notice when you slip into worry, into doubt, into fear. And the moment you notice it, you must stop and say, no, I'm not going back to the old mold. I am holding the new mold. I refuse to collapse. This is not about suppressing negative emotions. It is about refusing to dwell in them. It is about acknowledging the fear and then choosing to return your attention to the vision. Holmes said that every time you do this, you strengthen the new mental equivalent and weaken the old one. Eventually, the new one becomes the default. The reversion is also fueled by the opinions of others. When you share your vision with people who do not understand the law, they will often try to pull you back down to their level. They will say, be realistic. Don't get your hopes up. You're setting yourself up for disappointment. Holmes says you must guard your vision like a sacred treasure. Do not cast your pearls before swine. Do not share your mental equivalent with people who will trample on it. Find a community of like-minded individuals who understand the principles and who will support your expansion, not sabotage it. Holmes also warned against the trap of measuring your progress by external results. When you are building a new mental equivalent, there is often a lag time between the internal shift and the external manifestation. During this lag time, your circumstances may not change immediately. In fact, they may appear to get worse before they get better. This is the universe clearing out the old patterns to make room for the new ones. If you judge your mental equivalent by your current circumstances, you will collapse. You will say, this isn't working. I'm wasting my time. And you will revert to the old mold. Holmes taught that you must hold the new mental equivalent regardless of external evidence. You must trust the law even when the law appears to be ignoring you. You must understand that the law is always working, always responding, always honoring your mental equivalent, but it works on its own timeline, not yours. Your job is not to force the manifestation. Your job is to maintain the mold. The universe will handle the rest. The moment you start trying to control how and when the demonstration appears, you introduce doubt, and doubt cracks the mold. The refinement is about eliminating these fatal mistakes. It is about becoming so consistent, so unwavering, so committed to your new mental equivalent that nothing can shake you. Not circumstances, not opinions, not delays, not setbacks. Holmes said that this level of faith is rare, but it is also the only thing that produces miracles. The miracles do not come from the universe deciding to favor you. The miracles come from you maintaining a mental equivalent so large and so stable that the universe has no choice but to fill it. Now we turn to the master's tips, the advanced insights that separate the novice from the adept. Holmes provided many teachings throughout his life, but there is one command that stands above all others, one statement that encapsulates the entire science of mind. He said, the limit of your ability to demonstrate depends on your ability to provide a mental equivalent. Expand your thought, and you expand your life. This is not a suggestion. This is a law. It is as reliable as the law of gravity. If you want to change your life, you must change your thought. There is no other way. Holmes also taught that you must become comfortable with the idea that you are the thinker, not the thought. You are not your circumstances. You are not your bank account. You are not your diagnosis. You are not your past. You are the consciousness that is observing all of these things, and you have the power to change them by changing the mental equivalent you are holding. This distinction is critical. Most people identify with their circumstances. They say, I am poor, I am sick, I am alone. Holmes says, no, you are the thinker who is currently thinking thoughts of poverty, sickness, and loneliness. And you can think different thoughts. This shift in identity is the key to all transformation. When you realize that you are not the victim of your circumstances, but the creator of them, everything changes. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And you start asking, what mental equivalent am I holding that is producing this result? This is the question of a master. This is the question of someone who understands the law and is ready to use it consciously. Holmes also emphasized the importance of persistence. He said that most people give up too soon. They build the mental equivalent for a few days or a few weeks, and when they do not see immediate results, they abandon the practice. They say, "This doesn't work." But Holmes says it does work. It always works. The problem is that they did not give it enough time. The subconscious mind is like a garden. You cannot plant a seed today and expect a harvest tomorrow. You must water the seed. You must protect it from weeds. You must give it time to grow. The mental equivalent is the same. You must tend it daily, protect it from doubt, and give it time to manifest. Holmes taught that the demonstration is inevitable if you hold the mental equivalent long enough. The law does not fail. It cannot fail. It is the very structure of reality. But you must be willing to hold the vision through the darkness, through the doubt, through the delays. You must be willing to say, "I do not care how long this takes. I am not going back to the old mold. I am committed to this new mental equivalent, and I will hold it until the universe delivers." This is the faith that moves mountains. This is the faith that produces miracles. Another master's tip from Holmes is to practice the art of non-resistance. He taught that when you resist your current circumstances, you give them power. You lock them in place. You say to the universe, "This is real. This is solid. This is what I must fight against." But Holmes says your current circumstances are not real in the ultimate sense. They are simply the echo of your old mental equivalent. They are already dissolving. The new reality is already forming. Your job is not to fight the old. Your job is to focus on the new. When you stop resisting what is and start embodying what will be, the transition happens effortlessly. Holmes also warned against the trap of trying to manipulate specific outcomes. He said that you should define the mental equivalent, not the method. You should know what you want, but you should not dictate how the universe must deliver it. The universe has infinite intelligence and infinite resources. It knows pathways you cannot see. It can arrange circumstances in ways you cannot imagine. When you try to control the how, you limit the universe. You say, "It must come through this job, or this person, or this opportunity." But Holmes says, let go of the how. Hold the what. Trust the law to find the perfect channel. Holmes taught that the mental equivalent is not just about material things. It is about the quality of your consciousness. It is about who you are becoming, not just what you are getting. When you focus on becoming a person of integrity, of generosity, of courage, of love, the material things follow naturally. They are the byproducts of an expanded consciousness. But if you focus only on the material things without expanding your consciousness, you will get the things and lose them, because you do not have the mental equivalent to sustain them. The final master's tip is this: live as if the law is true, even when you cannot see the evidence. Holmes said that faith is not about believing in spite of evidence. Faith is about acting in accordance with the law before the evidence appears. It is about spending money you do not have because you know it is coming. It is about speaking with confidence, even when you feel afraid. It is about treating yourself as valuable, even when the world has not yet recognized your value. This is not recklessness. This is alignment. This is living from the mental equivalent instead of living from the circumstances. Holmes said that when you live this way, you become a magnet. You attract people, opportunities, and resources that match your new frequency. You do not have to chase anything. You simply hold the mental equivalent, and the universe brings everything to you. This is the mastery. This is the refinement. This is the life that is available to anyone who is willing to do the inner work of expanding their consciousness and holding it steady until the outer world conforms. Now we must connect this teaching to the science that validates it. Ernest Holmes was not speaking in metaphors. He was describing a psychological and neurological reality that modern science has confirmed. The mental equivalent is exactly what Dr. Maxwell Maltz called the self-image in his groundbreaking work, Psycho-Cybernetics. Maltz, a plastic surgeon, discovered something extraordinary. He noticed that when he changed a person's face, some patients experienced a complete transformation in their personality and their life circumstances. But others, despite having the same physical improvement, remained stuck in the same patterns of failure and unhappiness. Maltz realized that the physical face was not the determining factor. The determining factor was the self-image, the internal picture that each person held of themselves. Those who had a positive self-image were able to integrate the new face and use it as a springboard to success. Those who had a negative self-image rejected the new face. They could not see it. They continued to behave as if they were still ugly, still unworthy, still limited. Maltz concluded that the self-image is a thermostat. It maintains a set point, and no matter what happens externally, the person will always return to that set point unless the thermostat itself is reset. This is precisely what Holmes was teaching. The mental equivalent is the thermostat. It is the set point. It is the internal governor that determines how much success, how much wealth, how much love, how much health you are allowed to experience. If you earn more than your mental equivalent allows, you will self-sabotage to get back down to your setting. If you receive more love than your self-image believes you deserve, you will unconsciously push it away. If you achieve more success than your internal picture can accommodate, you will find a way to fail. This is not a moral failing. This is a mechanical process. It is the self-image doing its job, maintaining consistency. Maltz taught that the self-image is formed through repeated experiences and repeated thoughts. If you were told as a child that you were not good enough, that you would never amount to anything, that you should not expect too much from life, these messages became part of your self-image. They became the walls of your mental container. And now, as an adult, you are unconsciously living within those walls, even though you consciously want to break free. Holmes understood this decades before Maltz wrote his book. He knew that you cannot change your life by changing your circumstances. You must change your mental equivalent first, and then the circumstances will change automatically. The science of Psycho-Cybernetics confirms that the subconscious mind operates like a servo mechanism. It is a goal-seeking device. It moves you toward whatever target you set for it. But here is the critical point. The target is not what you consciously say you want. The target is the self-image, the mental equivalent that you actually believe is true about yourself. If your self-image says you are a failure, your subconscious mind will guide you toward failure, no matter how much you consciously desire success. It will cause you to miss opportunities, to make poor decisions, to attract the wrong people. It will sabotage you in 1,000 subtle ways, because it is simply doing its job, keeping you consistent with your self-image. Holmes taught that the only way to change this pattern is to deliberately reprogram the self-image. You must feed your subconscious mind a new picture, a new mental equivalent, a new set point, and you must do this with such consistency and such emotional intensity that the old self-image is overwritten. Maltz confirmed this. He said that the subconscious mind cannot tell the difference between a real experience and a vividly imagined one. If you imagine yourself as successful, as wealthy, as loved, with enough sensory detail and enough emotional conviction, the subconscious mind accepts it as real. And once it accepts it as real, it begins to move you toward that reality. This is why Holmes insisted on the practice of mental rehearsal. He said, you must spend time each day mentally living in your desired reality, not as a distant fantasy, but as a present tense experience. You must see it, feel it, hear it, taste it, touch it. You must make it so real in your imagination that your subconscious mind has no choice but to accept it. And when your subconscious mind accepts it, your self-image shifts. Your mental equivalent expands, your thermostat is reset. And then, without any conscious effort, your behavior changes, your perceptions change, your opportunities change. You become a different person, and that different person attracts a different reality. Maltz also discovered that it takes approximately 21 days of consistent practice to install a new habit or a new self-image. Holmes would agree with this time frame, though he would add that the depth of the old pattern determines how long it takes to replace it. If you have been holding a mental equivalent of poverty for 40 years, it may take more than 21 days to fully replace it with a mental equivalent of wealth. But the principle remains the same: daily practice, consistent focus, emotional engagement. These are the tools that reprogram the subconscious mind. The science of neuroplasticity has now confirmed what Holmes and Maltz taught. The brain is not fixed. It is constantly rewiring itself based on where you focus your attention. Every thought you think strengthens certain neural pathways and weakens others. If you consistently think thoughts of limitation, you strengthen the neural pathways of limitation. If you consistently think thoughts of abundance, you strengthen the neural pathways of abundance. Over time, the new pathways become the dominant ones, and the old pathways atrophy. This is the biological basis of the mental equivalent. This is why it works. Holmes understood that you are not a victim of your biology. You are the director of your biology. Your thoughts are not just mental events, they are physical events. They trigger chemical reactions. They activate genes. They shape the structure of your brain. When you change your mental equivalent, you are literally changing your brain. You are rewiring your nervous system to operate at a higher frequency. And when your nervous system operates at a higher frequency, you attract circumstances that match that frequency. This is not magic. This is science. This is the law in action. The validation from Psycho-Cybernetics is profound because it removes the element of blind faith. You do not have to believe in metaphysics to use these principles. You simply have to understand that your self-image determines your results and that your self-image can be changed through deliberate practice. Holmes taught this as spiritual law. Maltz taught this as psychological law, but they are describing the same phenomenon. The mental equivalent and the self-image are two names for the same mechanism. And that mechanism is the key to all transformation. Holmes also anticipated the findings of modern neuroscience regarding the reticular activating system, or RAS. The RAS is the part of your brain that filters information. It determines what you notice and what you ignore. If you have a mental equivalent of poverty, your RAS will filter out opportunities for wealth. It will literally make you blind to them. But if you have a mental equivalent of wealth, your RAS will highlight every opportunity, every resource, every connection that could lead to wealth. You will see possibilities that others miss, not because you are luckier, but because your mental equivalent has programmed your RAS to look for them. This is why Holmes said that the universe is always abundant, but most people cannot see the abundance. They are looking through the filter of a small mental equivalent, and that filter blocks their perception. When you expand your mental equivalent, you expand your perception. You begin to see what was always there. You begin to notice the opportunities that have been surrounding you all along, and when you notice them, you can act on them. This is how the demonstration unfolds. Not through magic, but through the natural operation of your brain responding to the mental equivalent you have installed. The validation from science is complete. The mental equivalent is not a religious concept. It is a psychological reality. It is a neurological fact. It is the mechanism by which your inner world creates your outer world. Holmes knew this. Maltz confirmed it. And now you know it. The question is, what will you do with this knowledge? Will you continue to live with the small mental equivalent that was installed in you by your past? Or will you take responsibility for resetting the thermostat and building a new self-image that matches the life you truly desire? Holmes taught that the choice is always yours. The universe does not care which mental equivalent you choose. It will honor whatever you provide. But you must choose consciously. You must choose deliberately. You must choose with full awareness that you are the architect of your own reality. And once you make that choice, once you commit to building the larger mental equivalent, the universe will support you. The law will respond. The demonstration will unfold. This is not a promise, this is a guarantee, because the law never fails. Now we turn to the anecdote, the real-world illustration that makes the principle tangible. Consider the story of a salesperson who was stuck earning $5,000 per month. She worked hard. She made her calls. She followed up with clients. She did everything her training taught her to do. And yet, no matter how much effort she exerted, she could not break through the $5,000 ceiling. Some months she would come close to $6,000, but then a deal would fall through, or a client would cancel, or some unexpected expense would arise. By the end of the month, she was always back at $5,000. She was frustrated. She was exhausted. She began to believe that $5,000 was her limit, that she simply did not have what it took to earn more. But then she encountered the teaching of Ernest Holmes. She learned about the mental equivalent. She realized that her income was not determined by her effort. It was determined by her internal set point. And she began to investigate what that set point was. She asked herself, what do I believe about money? What do I believe about people who earn more than $5,000 per month? What do I believe about myself? As she sat with these questions, a memory surfaced. She remembered her father, a good man, a hard-working man, but a man who had struggled his entire life. And she remembered something he used to say. Only greedy people make more than that. He would say it whenever he heard about someone earning a high income. He would say it with disdain, with judgment, with the certainty of someone who believed he was morally superior because he lived modestly. And as a child, she had absorbed this belief. She had internalized the idea that making more than a certain amount was greedy, that it was wrong, that it was something to be ashamed of. This was her mental equivalent. This was the cap. She could not earn more than $5,000 per month because her subconscious mind believed that anything beyond that was greedy. And she was not a greedy person. She was a good person. Therefore, her subconscious mind kept her at $5,000 to protect her from becoming someone she would despise. This is how the mental equivalent works. It is not logical. It is not conscious. But it is absolute. It will enforce the rules you have internalized, even if those rules are destroying your life. Once she identified the belief, she began the work of replacing it. She used the protocol. She spent 10 minutes every day mentally dwelling in the reality of earning $20,000 per month. But she did not just visualize the money. She reframed what the money meant. She told herself, "This money is a tool for good. This money allows me to support my family. This money allows me to contribute to causes I care about. This money allows me to be generous without limitation." She normalized the higher income by connecting it to her values, to her purpose, to her desire to serve. She also began to raise her standards in small ways. She stopped buying the cheapest option. She started treating herself with more respect. She dressed better. She spoke with more confidence. She acted as if she was already the person who earned $20,000 per month. And slowly, over the course of several weeks, she felt the shift. The $20,000 no longer felt impossible. It felt normal. It felt like her new baseline. Her mental equivalent had expanded, and then the demonstration happened. Within 60 days, she hit $20,000. But here is the remarkable part. She did it with less effort than she had been exerting to earn $5,000. She was not working harder. She was working smarter. She was attracting better clients. She was closing bigger deals. She was noticing opportunities that she had been blind to before. Her RAS had been reprogrammed. Her self-image had been reset. Her mental equivalent had expanded, and the universe had no choice but to fill the new container. This is not an isolated case. This is the pattern. This is how the law works. Holmes taught that once you remove the internal cap, the external flow increases automatically. You do not have to force it. You do not have to manipulate it. You simply have to provide the larger mental equivalent, and the law takes care of the rest. The salesperson's story is proof. She was not special. She was not lucky. She simply understood the principle and applied it with discipline and faith. Holmes would say that this story is your story. The details may be different, but the mechanism is the same. You have a mental equivalent that is capping your income, your health, your relationships, your happiness, and that mental equivalent was installed by someone else, your parents, your culture, your past experiences. But it does not have to remain. You can replace it. You can build a new one. You can reset the thermostat. And when you do, your life will change in ways that will astonish you. The anecdote is not just a feel-good story. It is a case study in the science of mind. It demonstrates that the mental equivalent is not a theory. It is a fact. It is the hidden ratio that locks your destiny. And the moment you understand this ratio, the moment you take control of it, you become the master of your life. You stop being a victim. You stop being stuck. You start being the architect, the engineer, the designer of your reality. This is the promise. This is the power. This is the truth that Ernest Holmes spent his life teaching. We have reached the synthesis of power, the moment where all the threads converge into a single, undeniable truth. The world is a mirror. It reflects back to you the exact mental equivalent you are holding. If you do not like the reflection, do not polish the mirror. Do not try to change the image by manipulating the glass. Change the object standing in front of it. Change your mind. Holmes taught that this is the only work that matters. This is the only labor that produces lasting results. Everything else is distraction. The synthesis is this: you are not powerless. You are not at the mercy of fate or luck or circumstance. You are the thinker, and the world is the thought made visible. Every condition in your life, every relationship, every dollar in your bank account, every cell in your body is responding to the mental equivalent you have provided. If you want to change any of these things, you must go to the source. You must change the blueprint. You must expand the container. You must reset the thermostat. There is no other way. Holmes understood that this teaching is both liberating and terrifying. It is liberating because it gives you total power. It says that you are not dependent on anyone or anything outside yourself. You are the creator. You are the cause. You are the first cause operating through your individual mind. But it is also terrifying because it removes every excuse. You can no longer blame your parents, your government, your economy, your genetics. You can no longer say, "This is just how life is," because Holmes says, "No, this is how your mental equivalent is, and you can change it." The synthesis demands that you take full responsibility, not just for your actions, but for your thoughts, not just for your successes, but for your failures, not just for what you have done, but for what you have attracted. This level of responsibility is rare. Most people spend their entire lives avoiding it. They prefer to see themselves as victims because victimhood requires no effort. But Holmes says that victimhood is also powerlessness. If you are a victim, you cannot change anything. But if you are the creator, you can change everything. The power is in the recognition. The moment you recognize that your outer world is a reflection of your inner world, everything shifts. You stop fighting with the reflection. You stop trying to rearrange the furniture in the mirror. You turn your attention inward. You examine the mental equivalent you are holding. You ask, is this the blueprint I want to live by? Is this the container I want to be limited by? Is this the thermostat I want to be governed by? And if the answer is no, you begin the work of building a new one. Holmes taught that this work is sacred. It is not self-help. It is not personal development. It is spiritual practice at the highest level. You are aligning yourself with the creative power of the universe. You are becoming a conscious co-creator. You are stepping into your role as the architect of reality. This is what it means to be made in the image and likeness of God. Not that you look like God, but that you function like God. You create through thought. You manifest through consciousness. You demonstrate through mental equivalence. The message of empowerment is simple, but it is also absolute. The universe is waiting for your permission to give you more. That permission is your mental equivalent. Build a palace in your mind, and the universe will furnish it. Build a shack, and the universe will let you freeze. Holmes did not mince words. He did not soften the teaching to make it more palatable. He said, "You are the one who determines the size of your life. Not God, not fate, not circumstances. You. This is empowerment in its purest form. It is not about positive thinking. It is not about affirmations repeated without conviction. It is about understanding the law and using it deliberately. It is about recognizing that you have been given the most powerful tool in the universe, your consciousness. And with that tool, you can build anything. You can create any reality. You can demonstrate any condition. The only limit is the size of your mental equivalent." Holmes taught that most people live their entire lives without ever discovering this power. They go to their graves believing that they were unlucky, that they were dealt a bad hand, that life was unfair. But Holmes says they were not unlucky. They simply had a small mental equivalent. They simply did not know that they could expand it. They simply did not understand that the universe was waiting, ready to pour abundance into whatever container they provided. And because they provided a small container, they received a small life. But you now know the truth. You now understand the mechanism. You now have the blueprint. The question is, what will you do with it? Will you continue to live with the mental equivalent you inherited? Or will you take the responsibility and the power and the joy of building a new one? Holmes says the choice is yours. The universe does not force you to expand. It simply offers you the opportunity. And if you take it, if you commit to it, if you hold the larger mental equivalent with unwavering faith, the universe will honor it. The demonstration will come, the transformation will happen, The life you desire will manifest. Holmes also taught that this empowerment comes with a responsibility. When you understand the law, you can no longer plead ignorance. You can no longer say, "I didn't know." You know. And with that knowledge comes the obligation to use it wisely. You must guard your thoughts. You must monitor your mental equivalent. You must refuse to let fear, doubt, or negativity collapse your container. You must become the vigilant guardian of your own consciousness, because your consciousness is the most valuable thing you own. The empowerment is not just for you. It is for everyone you touch. When you expand your mental equivalent, you raise the frequency of everyone around you. You become a beacon. You become an example. You become proof that the law works. And others, seeing your demonstration, will be inspired to expand their own mental equivalents. This is how the world changes, not through politics, not through revolution, but through individuals who understand the law and use it to create lives of abundance, health, love, and joy. Holmes believed that the science of mind was not just a philosophy, it was a movement, it was a revolution in consciousness. It was the key to creating heaven on earth. And that key is the mental equivalent. When enough people understand this principle, when enough people expand their containers, when enough people refuse to accept limitation, the collective consciousness of humanity will shift. Poverty will disappear. Disease will disappear. War will disappear. Not because we fought against them, but because we built a mental equivalent that could not accommodate them. This is the vision. This is the promise. This is the power that Ernest Holmes offered to the world, and it is the power that is now available to you. You are not small. You are not limited. You are not powerless. You are an individualized expression of the infinite, and the infinite has no limits. The only question is, how large are you willing to become? How much are you willing to receive? How much are you willing to hold? The universe is waiting for your answer, and your answer is your mental equivalent. The challenge is this. Pick one area of your life and mentally double your expectation for 7 days. Refuse to accept the small version. If you currently earn $5,000 per month, spend 7 days dwelling in the mental equivalent of 10,000. If you currently weigh 200 pounds, spend 7 days embodying the vitality of someone who weighs 160. If you currently feel lonely, spend 7 days feeling deeply connected and loved. Do not just think about it. Feel it. Live it. Become it. For 7 days, refuse to collapse back into the old mental equivalent. Hold the new one with absolute consistency. This is not a game. This is a test. This is you proving to yourself that the law works. Holmes taught that you do not need to believe in the law for it to work. You simply need to use it. And the best way to build faith is through experience. When you hold a larger mental equivalent for 7 days, and you begin to see shifts in your outer world, opportunities appearing, circumstances changing, people responding to you differently, you will know that this is real. You will know that you are not a victim. You will know that you are the creator. The challenge also requires you to refuse the temptation to measure your progress by immediate results. During the 7 days, your outer circumstances may not change dramatically, but your inner state will change. Your frequency will change. Your perceptions will change. And these inner changes are the precursors to the outer changes. Holmes taught that the outer world is always the last to change because it is the densest level of reality. The change begins in consciousness, then moves to emotion, then to behavior, and finally to circumstances. Trust the process. Hold the mental equivalent. The demonstration will follow. At the end of the 7 days, you will have a choice. You can collapse back into the old mental equivalent, or you can continue to hold the new one. Holmes says that if you hold it for 21 days, it will begin to solidify. If you hold it for 90 days, it will become your new baseline. And if you hold it for a year, it will be so deeply ingrained that you will never go back. This is how you permanently reset the thermostat. This is how you permanently expand your life. 1 day at a time, one mental equivalent at a time, one demonstration at a time. The final call to action is this. Subscribe to Sacred Logic to learn how to build the mind of a master. This channel is dedicated to the precise, mathematical spirituality of Ernest Holmes and the science of mind. We do not deal in wishful thinking. We do not offer quick fixes. We teach the law. We teach the principles. We teach the architecture of reality. If you are serious about transforming your life, if you are ready to take full responsibility for your mental equivalent, if you are willing to do the inner work that most people avoid, then this channel is for you. Holmes taught that the masters are not special. They are simply people who understood the law and used it consistently. They are people who refused to accept limitation. They are people who expanded their mental equivalents until they could hold the life they desired. And then they held it until the universe delivered. You can become a master. You have the same power. You have the same access to the law. The only difference is that they chose to use it, and most people choose to ignore it. The final message is this. You are standing at a crossroads. One path leads to the life you have always lived, the life determined by the mental equivalent you inherited. The other path leads to the life you were designed to live, the life determined by the mental equivalent you consciously create. The first path is easy. It requires no effort. It requires no change. It requires no growth, but it also offers no transformation. The second path is challenging. It requires discipline. It requires faith. It requires you to become someone you have never been before, but it also offers everything you have ever desired. Holmes says the universe does not care which path you choose. It will support you either way. But he also says that you were not born to live small. You were born to expand. You were born to demonstrate. You were born to express the fullness of the divine through your individual life. And the only thing preventing you from doing that is the size of your mental equivalent. Expand it, and you expand everything. This is the law. This is the truth. This is the hidden ratio that locks your destiny. Now you know. Now you must choose. Now you must act. The universe is waiting.